Hi, everyone. This is Heather with another Homeschool Live. I'm here today with Alan from McGraw Hill, and he specifically works with the ALEX program. He works closely with teachers, school districts, and administrators, and most recently, he's been working with parents. And I'm really excited for him to share with us how parents, specifically homeschooling parents, can use ALEX in their homeschool. Hi, Alan. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Heather, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I am really excited to learn more about ALEX and how it works. Can you share with us more about ALEX?
Yeah. So I guess I would love to just maybe give you a little bit of my background too. I've been with McGraw Hill going on now for 6 years. I've been working in those 6 years heavily with ALEX, which is one of our most popular digital math programs. ALEX is a very powerful tool that we use both in the K through 12 areas, both with teachers, school districts, schools, but also with homeschooling, with independent use. And the great thing about ALEX is that it focuses so much on what the students know, what the students don't know, and what they're ready to learn. So as students take a diagnostic with ALEX as they are working through the program, ALEX is always identifying those three things: what students know, what they don't know, and what they're ready to learn. And it focuses only on what students are ready to learn. So at no point will students be given something that they're just not ready for.
Wow. So ALEX is not just a testing program. You're talking about diagnostic testing, seeing where children are, which is definitely what homeschooling parents definitely want to know. Some states it's required to have testing at the end of the year. Others it's not, but even if you're in a state where it's not required, parents still want to know, obviously, where their children are standing. But can you tell us how ALEX is more than that, more than a testing program?
Yeah, I think a lot of people usually when they've heard of ALEX, they tell me that, right? Wait a minute, isn't ALEX like sort of a testing platform of some sort? And I say actually it's a lot more than that. And they believe that it's that because a lot of college and universities nowadays are using ALEX as a way to understand their entry level math that is needed. So I know I've worked with a couple of professors out here in Southern California where they were working on a program to figure out how do you bridge the gap between the students that are entering college and what they're actually being taught in high school. So a lot of people think it's a testing platform just to see what students are, but no, the program, particularly the ones that we have for independent use, parents who maybe want to homeschool their children and use ALEX at home, that program, it does include the diagnostic. So when students are first encountering ALEX, they're going to take an assessment. ALEX can identify where they are. Once again, those three things, it's going to identify what the student knows, what they don't know, and what they're ready to learn. But it creates a personalized path. So the goal is that the students go through this personalized path and that they are only working on topics that they are ready for. There are some built-in resources, built-in tools that students have as they navigate. So, teachers, parents can be really hands-on with the students, but for the most part, ALEX will do the job in helping students understand the material. So yeah, it's a personalized platform, and it's truly personalized because it keeps updating as students are learning more topics. What ALEX does is uses what is called knowledge space theory. So it maps the topics together. So obviously, if a student can complete or knows this one topic, it'll rightfully assume that topics that are prerequisites to that are also mastered. And that's basically the scope of how ALEX works. Now, when students complete a certain amount of work in ALEX, then they get another assessment. So there's what we call progress knowledge checks. ALEX is continuously assessing what the students know because the goal is really long-term retention. It's not they just learn one thing once and that's it, they move on. No, they got to come back and show that they've truly mastered those topics. So it's a lot more than just testing, although testing is a huge part of ALEX.
I mean, I love how you said that it doesn't overwhelm the child with things that they don't know, because I think that
Yeah.
can be overwhelming with an online program where a parent will purchase it and they'll be excited, and then the child just shuts down because
Mhm.
they don't understand it. They haven't been prepared. So I would love to know what topics you mentioned math. So is this specifically a math program, or are there other subjects that are included in ALEX?
Yeah, so it's mainly math and some of the sciences.
Okay.
We don't. ALEX is not for language arts or anything like that. So we have chemistry, for example. That's one of our popular courses that we have within ALEKS as well, but it's mainly math, anything from as low as third grade. So we don't have anything lower than third grade. So anything as low as third grade, and even as high as some of the college courses as well. We have anything from at the high school level, algebra, integrated mathematics, geometry. We have some college prep courses also. And then we also have even some college math as well.
Okay. So if you sign up, would you purchase each course? If you want to take one course, you purchase one course, or are you purchasing a subscription and then you have access to everything?
So the way it works is when you purchase a subscription, you'll need to place or identify the course that the student will be placed in. So technically with the subscription, you can always change it and say, you know what, my student is already completed third grade. Do I have to buy another subscription to put them in fourth? No. As a teacher, as a parent, I work with teachers so much, I call parents teachers now too. But as a parent, you can go and change it and say, okay, the student's done with the third grade topics. Let's go ahead and have them work on fourth grade topics. So the subscription, in a way, does cover it all. But at any given point, the student only works on one of those courses.
Okay. So a child signs in and they go to their grade level. They don't necessarily go to their course. Is that correct? They are assigned to the grade level and then they work through that each day?
As a parent, you would decide that. So
Okay.
as a parent, you would say, you know what, my child is a third grader. I'm going to go ahead and have the student work on the third grade course. And it just has third grade materials. There are some prerequisites. About 50% of the topics that are in our courses are prerequisites. So students who may need a little bit more remediation, a little bit of what I call a little bit of a kicker, that's what they also are able to get within our courses. But again, we don't want to assume that although the student should be in third grade, that he or she needs to be in third grade. As a parent, we can decide, no, the student is actually working at a higher grade level, and instead put the student in a different course.
And that's one of the joys of homeschooling for sure, is you can have, your child working at one grade level in one subject, another grade level, another, and that's
Yeah,
okay. That's
yeah,
absolutely okay. I mean, in public school, that happens. I know it did when I was in public school. If you were a great reader, you would be in a higher reading class, or same with math.
mhm,
You know, there's definitely that flexibility, which is excellent.
absolutely.
So, I would love to know specifically, you work primarily with schools, but I would love to know how Alex can help homeschooling families in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned this a little bit, Heather. When the pandemic hit, all of a sudden these parents who would rely on their school teachers to teach the students, it kind of flipped, and now the parents became teachers at home. And in the last few years since the pandemic hit, I've actually been doing a lot more webinars, a lot more conferences with parents, kind of showing them what they can do with ALEKS. So ALEKS can help in a few ways. First, obviously, we can always identify where the students are, right? That's the whole assessment piece of ALEKS. We can also ensure that ALEKS can assist the students working at their own level because they are only working on topics they are ready for. And at the same time, there are built-in resources embedded in ALEKS. So for example, many of our topics have video tutorials that students can watch. Right? I don't want to read through the text to figure out how to solve this math problem. Oh, there's a video tutorial. A lot of our students now with YouTube, they learn everything through YouTube. But we have some video tutorials, and it's really just a teacher walking the students through step by step on how to solve the problem. So I think that's one key component. The students can do that. Another thing that's also important is that there's student agency. Although there's a personalized path for the student may have, let's say, 20 topics that ALEKS has identified they are ready for. As a student, I don't have to be limited and going through the progressive steps that ALEKS is asking me to do. I can decide, you know what, maybe I want to work on a different topic on my own because I just feel like changing it up. And so as a student, as a child, I can actually decide to work on another topic that I'm still ready to learn. So it still will not be difficult. So there is some student agency there as well, which I know that's really important for homeschool families. And some of the children don't want to just feel stuck that they're only can work on the thing that the program is asking them to work on. No, there's obviously some flexibility there. So those are some of the things that I think can really help homeschool families. Obviously, from a parent's end, we are always able to track how the students are doing. There are 3 main reports that the parents have access to. So if you want to find out at a high level how the students have progressed from where they started ALEKS to where they are now, there's a report that shows you those gains that the students has made. If you really want to see how the students are answering questions and you want to dig that deep into what answer they're inputting, there's even a report for that.
Wow.
So it depends on what level you want to see the students performing and how involved the parent wants to be.
I love that, because I think a lot of times parents, homeschool parents, any parent would get nervous when their child is using an online program. Like, oh, are they just clicking random answers? Are they actually engaged? Are they actually focused? That's definitely an issue with online learning. So having that accountability there is excellent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And to add to that, for example, a student in ALEKS typically works on what we call a learning page, right? They're kind of learning the topic, they're kind of getting used to it, and then they get to work independently. Well, as a parent, you can even see how long are they taking on that learning page.
Wow.
So we can identify timestamps as to how when the students access it and how long they spent there. So when I work with teachers, they get frustrated to learn that the students are spending 2 seconds on a learning page, and that's where they're getting all the questions wrong. So as a parent, we can always see that as well.
That's really good. That's incredible. You don't see that with very many programs. So that's awesome that you include that for sure. Would you say that the program would be a supplement to what a parent is already using for math and science, or do you think it could be a complete math and science curriculum?
I think at a homeschool level, it can be used in both ways. I think when people ask me, what's the best way to use ALEKS, etc., the good thing is that I think it's so flexible that it really pertains, or I guess we can really align it to the goals that maybe a homeschool family has. So if you are, you really love this core curriculum that you're using for math, and you do want to use ALEKS more as a remediation, you can do it that way. I've seen many parents that I've worked with that are just using ALEKS exclusively as if it was a core curriculum.
Right.
And that has also worked out well because it has the data, it has the assessment. We can even look at the data and see how the students are performing. So I've seen it both ways. So I would say that it's flexible enough to be used in any way that a homeschool family would want. And it's probably more that, how you want to align it to your goals.
And is there a specific lesson plan that the parent has or the student is given to know how much they should do each day, or does the parent assign that?
So we have our own recommendations in terms of the lesson plan. Because each student is so different, the students may actually have, maybe you have two students both in third grade and they're both working on different things. So it's very difficult to say, yes, you got to follow this lesson plan, because it's so adaptive that it all depends on the student's performance. Okay, so it all depends on the student's performance. And another thing to mention is ALEKS is an open response platform. What that means is that we don't really just ask questions with multiple choice. So the students, they'll have a question and they have to input a number, meaning they have to walk through the steps to that we can identify that they conceptually understand what is being asked of them, and then input a response. It's not like the student just happened to guess a true or false question, or just happened to guess C all the time, and that's how they've been progressing through the program. No, ALEKS really assesses that the student understands the material, because many of the questions are all open responses. So I would say that there really isn't a lesson plan that has to be followed, because it all depends on where the students are, and that's really what ALEKS does. It meets the students where they are, and it moves on in that manner.
Okay. So do you think would it be possible if you could walk me through, if we just pick a grade 5, and the student signs on, what do they see? Do they definitely watch a video? Is it an option? Could you just walk me through like an example of a day for a 5th grader?
Yeah. Is there okay if I actually show you? Do we have enough time?
It would be easier if you just explained it to us right now. And if you want to give us a link, maybe then we could share that with our followers.
Well, I can share a link a little bit later. There's a way to test ALEKS. So there's you can sign up for a free trial and test it out.
Awesome.
When the student logs in, they're gonna basically complete a few tasks. So ALEKS is gonna give them some recommendations, explain to them what ALEKS is. It's a personalized math program, etc. But the very first thing they're going to encounter is what we call a tools tutorial. Alex just wants to show the students how to use the program. You enter numbers in this box. If you wanted to do a graph, here's how you plot 2 points. If you want to do an exponents, here's how you do an exponents in Alex. So the very first task students complete is just so they can learn how to use the program. The second task they'll complete, and this is the major one, is actually the assessment. So when the students log in for the very first time, they are going to encounter the diagnostic. And the diagnostic, I usually get questions from folks, how long does it take? How many questions? And it varies, but usually it can take anywhere, depending on the grade level. The younger grades, takes a little bit less time, probably anywhere between 20 minutes to maybe 25, 30 minutes.
Okay.
For the older students, it can take up to 45 minutes. I've literally seen students take a whole hour and a half. Now,
so this is for the diagnostic or every test?
This is for the diagnostic. This is for the diagnostic, yes. Right. So it does vary by child, but if they don't finish in one sitting, it's okay. They can pick up where they left off the next day, so they don't have to completely finish it at that time. So that's what they're going to be encounter the first time they encounter Alex. They're going to, get a little bit of a review or a little bit of an explanation of what Alex is. They're going to be asked to complete certain tasks so that they understand how to use the platform, and then eventually they're going to take the diagnostic. After that, then Alex creates a path for them. They just click on Start My Path, and Alex will have them work on topics that they are ready for.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I mean,
hopefully my description was well enough to kind
of it's good, because a lot of parents, when they're starting a new program, they don't know what to expect. And when you have a diagnostic test like that, it can be overwhelming because the child is sitting there and they don't realize how long it's going to take. They think it might just be a quick lesson. Or when it takes 45 minutes, they might think every lesson is like that. But no, you're just trying to get that, figure out where they are, what level they're at. And like you said, you can break it up between a couple days or, different login times. So that's good to know. A parent definitely needs to know that.
And to add to that, because I think you asked me this, and I probably just missed your answering your question. You asked me about, is there a certain time frame that the parents can assign to the students, et cetera. So, and I mentioned we do have some recommendations, and much of it has to do with how many topics they should be learning. So I'm more focused on the students actually completing work than just being on a program. So with Alex, we can track how many topics they are learning on a given day or in a given week. So I'd say, if our goal is for the students to be able to learn, let's say 200 topics by the end of the year, then we can kind of break down how many topics they're going to have to learn every week. And they can equate anywhere. I've seen students, just doing an hour of Alex is enough. And I've seen some students that they may need 5 hours of Alex a week, which means they would have to log in for an hour each day. So I think it varies depending on where the students are now and where we want them to be.
So do you find that, I don't know how to really word this, but do you find that maybe parents are helping their children while they're taking these tests? So
I know parents are helping their children when they're taking this test. Here's how I know that. When the pandemic hit, obviously, a lot of school districts that were already using Alex, they almost had to basically push it on the parents. Like, hey, here's an Alex program. They can do this at home, etc. But what we find out is all of a sudden we had a lot of geniuses. We had students in third grade. The way Alex works is we call it the Alex pie. So we can see how much of the pie has been completed. So we have students that we saw, they were only completing about, 20% of the pie. And after taking the diagnostic because of the pandemic, they were already completed, 90% of the pie. It's like, whoa, how did that happen in such a short period of time? And we found that is that either parents were helping them, maybe it was a big brother or big sister that was helping the child. So yeah, we definitely see some parents helping the children. So it's important, and this is what I did with the webinars that I had with parents. It's important for us to set the expectations. Like, this is a diagnostic. It's okay if you don't know the answer. We want you to try your best. And also in Alex, there's actually an I don't know button during the diagnostic. So if the student really doesn't know, they'll click on that I don't know button. Now, the first time they click on that, they're going to get a little prompt, a warning. They say, hey, just make sure that you using the I don't know button will negatively affect your result, because Alex is going to assume you really do not understand this topic. Right. So there is an I don't know button in Alex. The other cool thing about the diagnostic is that it doesn't give feedback. So If I go to question one and I answer it, I don't get feedback after I answer it. I just move on to question two. And we do this purposely because we don't want the students' emotions to affect how they perform, or have them get frustrated
Mm,
during the diagnostic. So during the diagnostic, they do not get feedback. They just move on to the next question, and then they'll get the results at the end.
okay. That's really good. I mean, we want to know where our child is for sure.
Mhm.
And we're not trying to, you know, yeah. So I do have a question. So it's an online program. And are there opportunities for offline activities? Do you have printables, or do you have extra activities that you maybe give to the parent or teacher that they can use outside of the program they have online?
Yeah, so I would say there are limited offline activities. Most of it we want it to be online. For example, I know as a parent, you can also create quizzes through Alex. So if you really wanted to see, okay, I know that the student has been working on this, I want to just build a quiz, maybe a 10-question quiz to see how the student is doing. The student would complete that through Alex. And the great thing is that the parent wouldn't have to grade it, because the students would get immediate feedback after they complete the quiz, and the parents get the results. Um, so so I think it's very limited in some of the offline things. There are things that you can print, right? You can print the quiz,
Okay.
and those type of things. But because everything is so adaptive, we don't have a lot of capabilities for parents to print things out. So there, I would answer, we have very few outs resources that are not online.
Okay. And I mean, and that helps parents sometimes decide whether
Yeah,
this is a good fit for them,
absolutely.
because some of them it's just easier if everything is online,
That's
and
right.
others prefer more hands-on. So that's it's definitely good to know what is offered for sure. Um, in a general sense, could you describe what you see as one of the biggest challenges in math that students face today?
I would say there seems to be a lack of engagement with students in math. Um, Working in the K through 12 universe for so long, I say that all the time, and I have my theories about why that could be. One of them is I just think students are disconnecting from why do they have to learn, Pythagorean theorem, and how are they going to use that in the real world, right? Why do I need to find the slope of a line? How am I going to use that in the real world? So I think the disconnect between why am I learning this material and how do I actually apply it in the real world is something that I feel, particularly nowadays, students are challenged, and that's why I see a disinterest in mathematics with a lot of our children. There's so many distractions now with video games and YouTube and those type of things. There seems to be a lot more exciting than knowing why, y equals mx plus b is important for me in my life or my future. So I would say that's one of the biggest challenges. The students have a trouble connecting the dots between learning the material and actually using it in some way or another in the outside world.
Yeah. So that said, what do you think would be a piece of advice that you could give parents today when it comes to helping their students in math or education in general?
I think I think there are two that come to mind. The first one, and you kind of asked this earlier, when you asked, have you found that a lot of parents are helping their children with the diagnostic, right? I would say, particularly in a homeschool environment, and even if it's not homeschooling, right? Students who have homework and they take it home, parents helping them with the homework. I think one of the key components is a productive struggle. So I'm a huge fan of the productive struggle in students. I have a toddler. She's only 3, right? And I can see from a parent, right? If she can't fit that, that square, that cube into that little hole, I kind of want to help her. I want to help her. She's getting frustrated, and it's like, what do I do? I'm kind of stuck in between. Do I help her or do I
Yeah.
have her learn? And what we find is, if we just wait a little longer, you know, eh, the students can actually teach us something about perseverance and about how strong they are and how smart they are. So one of the things that comes to mind for and my advice to parents is to maybe allow a little bit more of that productive struggle with your child. The diagnostic, you really want to just be hands off in that. Even if students are struggling, right? And I know it's difficult to discern, right? Do I step in or do I just kind of leave it alone? But I think if we just wait a little longer and allow that productive struggle, I think our students would definitely show and demonstrate more than what we can even think of. So that's one that comes to mind. The second one that I think comes to mind has to do with follow through. What what I sometimes see is, and maybe not, I'm not so familiar with the homeschool environment as much as I should, but I think when in schools, which is where I work a lot more with teachers, what I find out is that even teachers themselves, because they have so many students, they don't follow through with the students' work as much as they could.
Hmm.
And I kind of see that sometimes even with parents, right? I used to say, oh, the parents just have to be involved, but that means different things for parents. It could just mean,
Yeah.
you know what, just take a little peek, see what they're doing. Okay, I'm involved. But I think if they're using a program like Alex, there's reports that you can watch. There's data that Alex is providing you, and it's just at your fingertips. So I think that follow through and a conversation, right? Okay, let's talk about Alex today. How's it going? Let's take a look at the data together. Where are you struggling? Where are you doing okay? So we have that really powerful data now. We just have to follow through with it. So I'd say those would be my two recommendations.
I love that because there's so many different types of homeschoolers out there. I mean, you have the ones that are completely, tech free, hands off, outdoor nature, and then you have ones that maybe just started homeschooling because of the pandemic. They're working,
Yeah.
and an online option is exactly what they need. And so there's no right or wrong way. Absolutely. You can, just like in any education, you go from one public school to another, and then they're going to have different models, different ways of doing things. So it's the same way with homeschooling. And so I love that this option is available for the parent who is looking for an online program that they can be involved in as much or as little as they can be. And it just sounds like a wonderful opportunity for the parent that needs that. So thank you so much for sharing about Alex. I would
Absolutely.
love to know if you could just tell our audience how they can check it out. Um, like you said, it's not just for public schools, it's for homeschoolers too, it's for parents. How can they purchase a subscription for themselves?
Yeah. So if any parent is still wanting to kind of test the waters, you can visit alex.com. That is ALEKS, alex.com. And you'll notice that in our menu, there's a section for independent use. So if you go to the independent use, that's where you would be able to kind of look at the pricing models that we have. We have subscription models. So if you only want to maybe have Alex for 1 month, we have a pricing model for that. If you want to use Alex for the entire year, obviously, because you're purchasing for the entire year, you get a discounted rate. And then for parents who want to use them for more than one child, we have discounts for those parents as well. We also have on our website a free trial section. So if you click on the free trial section, you enter your information, you get a chance to test the waters and see how it works. You get to both check out from a student's point of view what it'll look like, and from a parent's point of view. So you can actually look at both ways. If you want to see what the parents are going to be encountering in Alex, you can have a free trial for that. If you just want to see on your end what options you have, how it works, what kind of reporting is available, you can also sign up for a free trial for what we call the master account as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's awesome. I'm so excited that you have the free trial option. Parents love to check it out and see
Yeah.
if it's a good fit for them. So
Yeah,
thank
and
you
then, and
so
then
much.
no credit card necessary. You just input your email. We're not
Awesome.
asking for you're going to be billed after 30. No, that's not going to
Right,
happen.
right.
You just put your email in and you get to test it out right away.
Well, that is awesome. Well, do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to share with us before we sign off?
No, I mean, I think, I'm happy to be here and answer any questions that you had, Heather. You and I we talked a little bit before the interview, and one of the things that I mentioned was, it seems like homeschooling is such a big buzz now, particularly, when the pandemic hit. So I've been hearing it from, close friends, even teachers that I work with, right? So this has been definitely something that seems to be a, a huge niche for, but also at the same time something that we always want to find out what's the best resource out there, And I definitely want to praise the parents who took the that foot forward, to be that involved in their child's education.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us about this program, Alan. It was a pleasure talking to you. And thank you so much, everyone who tuned in today. Um, be sure to check out Alex at Alex with a K .com and try the free trial if you'd like. And like he mentioned, one price covers a whole family. So that is definitely a positive for the homeschool community. And right now, over at schoolhouseteachers.com, we are finishing up our Mama Bear sale. So if you are looking for curriculum, you can head over there and check out our options that we have as well. So have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we will see you next time.